Hear about all that shit with Mao Zedong? Mao Zedong did in fact kill around 40 million people. Kinda to be expected though. You tell all the kids in your entire country that, hey, you should drop out of school and then, you know, go burn down all our culturally significant moments, like our shrines and shit. And then 40 million people died and the Great Leap Forward happened. Hey everybody, today I'm reviewing Revolutionary Peking Orchestra version 1.28. Now, I don't know how many reviews there are, if any, on YouTube. I couldn't find any, so this might be the first. However, let's get some background on this album right here. So, Revolutionary Peking Orchestra version 1.28 is technically a remaster of the one that came out in 1994. This version came out in 1996. The band that made this album, Ground Zero, is a Japanese turntable-based, lots of sample-heavy, sound collage, avant-garde sort of rock jazz band. And hearing the word sound collage for normal people, including myself, before I listen to this album, I've never listened to that. So you might be wondering, what the fuck is that? It's a great question, because apparently it just means song with no structure, which can be interesting, I'm not gonna lie. So for this album, is it good? Great question, because honestly, it's kind of hard for me to tell. This is an interesting piece of music. The album's only 49 minutes though, and a lot of the songs kind of bleed into each other, so it's kind of hard to tell where you're at in the album. And by the end of the album, I was kind of left confused, because the beginning, we start with the first 5 minutes, that's just noise. It is a sound collage. There is no music, there is no sort of melody or rhythm. We're just hearing sounds, you hear drums, you're hearing samples of Mao Zedong, especially in the one song, Consume Mao. This is definitely based culturally in Mao Zedong, Chinese, and Japanese heritage, which is kind of interesting, but I could also see that, like, if you aren't related to that, or you don't know much about that, then the album could feel kind of, I don't know, maybe out of your comfort zone, or like, it's hard to relate to. I'm not saying I relate to it, I didn't live under fucking Mao's rule, but being part Asian, I think you can definitely get more out of the album than others who aren't. This album, though, is interesting. There's lots of parts where it's just noise, and not that I'm against that, I'm just not super fond of any sort of noise-based music, and I think a lot of people aren't. But it's interesting, because we got so many of these samples. People are speaking Chinese, people are speaking Japanese, we got Mao Zedong's samples, straight up just his speeches. And then we have these moments where the drums are building, we hear this marching, the samples are becoming crazy, they're all coming together, and it's just like this noise. But you can make out what's happening in it, and then there's moments where it's straight up just noise, and I don't know what the fuck is happening. And those moments, I definitely don't really fuck with. The first 5 minutes are relatively boring, and the last 5 minutes are relatively boring. Especially the last 5 minutes, because nothing's really happening. It's just static from the vinyl, and then the first 5 minutes, because you don't know what the fuck is happening. But those middle portion, like the 40 minutes in between the last bits, is really good. I do enjoy it. There's parts of this album, though, that are hard to listen to. And for most normal people, you're not going to want to listen to. If you like sound music, if you like any sort of sound, if you enjoy avant-garde, sort of just sound collages, where people are just kind of doing shit, and you also enjoy heavy sample usage, I think you can really get a kick out of this album. I don't think it's for everybody, and personally, I'm not really fucking with it. I'm feeling a 6 or a 7. It could go up in the future, but probably 6 or 7. It's hot as fuck again today. Thanks for watching the video. I'm kind of just glad I reviewed this and gave it a listen. I think a lot of people should give it a listen. Relatively known on RYM, but outside of that, I don't really see also other music places, but I mean, no reviews, not many people talk about it, and I think it's interesting. I know it's not the only sound collage album, but I like the idea, I like the concept. But thank you guys for watching. Go check out the album, Revolutionary Peking Orchestra version 1.28.